Third sister, we meet again. Chun Yun raised her head and saw the boy whom she never wanted to see again in her dreams, William. She was disheveled, skinny, and trapped in a mental hospital, like a walking corpse. You're crazy. You're a demon. She screamed heartbreakingly, her eyes bloodshot. William smiled, his voice cold. Third sister, this is just the debt you owe. He turned around, and the mirror reflected Chun Yun's face, which was now as old as a ghost. You like looking in the mirror? Then I'll let you take a good look at yourself every day. Chun Yun completely collapsed when she saw a series of mirrors that would never break, and her screams pierced the night sky. William stood at the door, dusting himself off, his eyes cold. Who's next? Hi everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you like this story, please let me know in the comment section. I will update the next part 10. Chapter 296. 20 minutes ago, I received a call from Chun Lang. William, it was you who drove Chun Yun crazy? Chun Lang spoke without any hesitation. I smiled and pretended to be innocent. Fourth sister, what are you talking about? Yun has been living in a hospital. How could I make her crazy? Although I denied it, the words driven her crazy seemed to confirm her guess. She chuckled, with a hint of sarcasm in her voice. Brother, you really have quite a lot of tricks. My heart was slightly moved, and I asked, what does fourth sister mean? Chun Lang's tone became more determined. From the beginning, you knew everything. You knew that I was greedy and was persuaded by Chun Xingwen to get rid of you. But you endured it all the time. You also knew that I would collect evidence against Chun Xingwen in order to guard against him. In the end, you schemed against me, knowing that I would betray you for the sake of profit and walk the path you set for me. I frowned slightly. Fourth sister is so precise. It seems that you really guessed it very well. She was in no hurry to respond, and continued. In that red fog, you gave us one last chance to choose whether to stand with you. You know, we have been blinded by love and interests, and we will definitely choose to give up in the end. Then, when we are desperate, we recall that opportunity and feel remorse. She paused and added softly, you are really smart. I sneered. Fourth sister, how could I have expected that Chun Xingwen would treat third sister like that and push you off the cliff? She spoke calmly, as if she had expected this reaction. If it doesn't work this time, it will work next time. She spoke lightly, as if she were discussing an unrelated story. You know us too well, and you know Chun Xingwen too well. She continued. You understand how despicable he is, but you can't let him go, right? As long as we continue to ally with him, one day, we will be betrayed by him and get retribution. I stopped interrupting and waited quietly for her next analysis. You already knew what Xuanyu did to Yun. Did you let Xuanyu back on purpose? Her voice was filled with unquestionable confirmation. She asked the question without expecting an answer, knowing that I might be worried about the recording. Xianyu's actions were not beyond your expectations. She continued. Yun's wounds have not healed, and her face has been disfigured. This is a devastating blow to her. But she held on because she has hope in her heart, and you are her only hope. You can ask your cousin to come over and give us a glimmer of hope, and then destroy it yourself. There was a hint of sneer in her voice. This way, Yun will completely collapse and fall into endless despair. Next, the paparazzi will surely arrive and excitedly take photos of this scene. Her words were somewhat meaningful. That was also planned by you, right? I lazily responded. Fourth sister, you are right. Brother, you are really the scariest person I have ever met. She sighed softly, as if she was a little emotional. Then who will be your target next? Me? Or my second sister? I smiled and said easily. Goal? I'm just a high school student. My goal is to get into a good university. I said this with a smile, but it sounded like a death knell to her ears. She was silent for a while, and finally said, You won't let us go. Why don't we make a deal? Deal? I was a little curious. What deal? I can help you with anything you want to do to the Chin family. I just ask you to let me go. There was a hint of pleading in her voice. I smiled and said, Fourth sister, your family never disappoints me. Every time you make me sigh, that blood relationship is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Just then, I saw David Daisy walk into the yard through the surveillance camera. Fourth sister, dad, and second sister are here. I won't tell you yet. I said lightly. They seem to have something to talk to me about. Chun Lang heard this and laughed instead of getting angry. You didn't hang up the phone because you wanted me to hear that David had given up on me and that Daisy was selfish, right? I smiled faintly. Fourth sister, at least you have seen through David and Daisy's indifference, right? This is good, and you won't feel any guilt anymore. She was silent for a while, then suddenly asked, So, did you reject the deal I proposed? Fourth sister, do you think you are qualified to make a deal with me? I asked coldly. She laughed at herself and said, Yeah, how can I be qualified to make a deal with you now? With your current ability, even if I don't help you, the Chin family will probably have no way to survive. She paused and continued, However, I have one last question. Ling Yuan is also an extraordinary person, right? I chuckled. Fourth sister is indeed smarter than second sister. It seems that the day when you will stand up is not far away. I hung up the phone, turned to look at Hejie, and asked with a smile, Brother, why are you here suddenly? Hejie's face was full of horror. Obviously, he didn't hear the specific content of the call, but he could guess the content of my conversation with Chun Lang. What's wrong? Do you think I'm too cruel for plotting against my own relatives? I squinted my eyes and said with a chuckle. Hejie was stunned for a moment, then quickly shook his head. You misunderstood. I didn't think so. It's just, I'm a little worried about you. What are you worried about? I raised my eyebrows. I know you've suffered a lot in the Chin family. It's normal for you to hate them, and it's your choice to want to retaliate against them. I have no right to interfere. He paused, as if considering how to continue. But I'm worried that you'll be blinded by hatred and never find peace. I'm also afraid that you'll regret it in the future. After all, these are your loved ones. I sneered. Regret? The Chin family owes me. Even if I skinned them alive, it would not be enough to relieve the hatred in my heart. He just saw the anger in my eyes and felt so distressed. Xiaoyi, what did the Chin family do? Is it more vicious than wanting to kill you? My eyes were red, and I was furious. Follow me. I stood up suddenly and walked downstairs. Hejie hesitated for a moment, then followed him to the basement. Xiaoyi, why did you bring me here? Hejie asked puzzledly. I smiled faintly and threw out a talisman. Don't you want to know what the Chin family did? Come and see for yourself. The next moment, Hejie's eyes went dark, and when he opened his eyes again, he was already standing outside the Chun family mansion. Chapter 297, What Hejie Saw. No, he did nothing wrong. Stop. Don't hit him. Stop hitting him. He's not crazy. In the world I created, Hejie watched the sunny boy with bright eyes gradually become silent. Despite this, he still did not give up his desire for family affection and love. He thought he was not good enough, so he tried his best to prove himself and do his best, hoping to be seen and loved. But when he finally succeeded, those beasts took away his achievements. What's more hateful is that they sent him, who was originally normal, to a mental hospital. Finally, he died in a riot, and his body was horrible to look at. When the beasts heard the news, they felt no sadness, but thought it was a good thing. To them, the dead was just an irreconcilable enemy. The screen suddenly went dark, and William reappeared in front of Hejie. At this time, Hejie's face was pale, his eyes were red and swollen, and his face was full of tear marks. What is going on? Hejie asked, enduring the severe pain, already vaguely guessing something in his heart. Brother, do you believe in rebirth? I stared into Hejie's eyes and said in a low voice. Hejie's heart suddenly shook, like thunder exploding, and instantly he couldn't think. His tears couldn't stop flowing, and some unbearable truths slowly emerged in his heart. This really happened? He muttered to himself, his eyes full of painful confirmation. I looked at him with a wry smile. Brother, are you still worried that I will regret it now? I am sorry. Hejie suddenly rushed forward, hugged me tightly, and burst into tears. I am sorry, Xiaoyi. It's my fault. I failed to protect you. You suffered so much in your last life, and I did nothing. I was stunned for a moment, tears rolling down my eyes, but I suppressed my emotions and gently patted Hejie on the back. Brother, I don't blame you. He just saw the scene of me entering the Chun family in my previous life, and he was always the only one who believed in me in those places where no one could see. Even after I was sent to a mental hospital, he wanted to help me, but the Chun family's lies covered everything. Later, Chen Xingwen was dissatisfied with He Jie standing on my side and attacked the He family's company. The He family was in danger and overwhelmed and had no time to look for me. In the end, the He family company went bankrupt, but the Chen family became increasingly powerful and became a wealthy family in the capital. He Jie only found out that I was dead when he met Chen Xingwen by chance. He was heartbroken. At that time, he was an ordinary office worker with great pressure in life. Apart from visiting the grave every Qingming festival, he was unable to do anything else. Although the efforts made by He Jie in his previous life seemed insignificant, to me, he always kept me in his heart, which was a great gesture of loyalty and friendship. I know very well that if I had not foolishly stayed away from He Jie in my previous life, perhaps he would have brought me the family love I longed for. Even though he was just a cousin, He Jie gave me meticulous care and warmth. After listening to my past life experience, He Jie still felt unwilling to give up. He felt that he had not done enough. If he could have done more, maybe I would not be so miserable and would not end up like this. Brother, don't think like that. I smiled helplessly. None of this is your fault. I'm just too stupid. He Jie wiped away his tears, shook his head, and said firmly, No, it's not that you are stupid. It's that those people in the Qin family are too mean and too vicious. Don't worry, Xiaoi. No matter what you do in the future, I will support you. You saved my life. Don't say anything. I will help you. Seeing that He Jie's emotions finally calmed down, I breathed a sigh of relief. Since you want to help me, then help me manage my game company. I really don't have the time or energy to manage it. My partner is not good enough either. He has told me several times that he needs help. Okay, I'll go. This time, I will definitely protect your company. No one can take it away from you. I smiled and said, Thank you for your hard work. He just shook his head and said with a smile, Don't say that. I'm your brother. I should protect you. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and said, By the way, Xiaoi, I have something else I want to tell you. What's up? I think you could consider developing the ointment you used to treat my wound. He hesitated but still said frankly, Actually, my father mentioned this matter. He wanted to see if he could cooperate with you. But this is not what I mean now. I just think that if the ointment can be mass-produced, it will have great market prospects. With your current strength, it's not difficult to defeat the Qin family. But from what you said and what I saw, Qin Shingwen has a lot of people behind him. The Rong family alone is not easy to deal with. I even think there are stronger forces behind him. So, I still hope you can prepare more cards. Don't worry, if you want to do this, I will ensure that it is completely independent, and the only beneficiary is you. The He family will never interfere. After hearing these words, I was a little surprised. I didn't expect He Jie to think so deeply and even notice Qin Shingwen's secret. He knew that this matter would bring huge benefits, but he was able to ensure that the He family would not get involved. This surprised me a little. Although I am not short of money, it is always beneficial to have more preparations. I smiled and said, Brother, don't be too anxious. After all, He's is the company you will take over in the future. No, I've made up my mind. Nini will be back soon. She's quite capable, so I'll hand over the company to her when the time comes. He Jie interrupted me directly and said firmly, Ning Ning. I laughed. Brother, don't worry. I have no complaints about my uncle and uncle. It's a good thing that you can help my family while helping me. I trust you, so I told you about my rebirth. Chapter 298, Give Up. Dad, where have you been? Why didn't you hold an umbrella? You're all wet. Chun Wanning rushed to the hospital and learned that Qin Yunyun was really crazy this time. Seeing David coming in with rain all over his body and a sluggish face, she asked with concern. David shook his head, said nothing, and turned to walk towards Chun Yunyun's ward. Chun Wanning picked up a towel and followed him, carefully helping him dry the water on his body. Dad, don't worry. I've already talked to the doctor about the third sister's condition, and the matter has not been concluded yet. Even if there is a problem, it may not be incurable. But David remained silent, his eyes fixed on Qin Yunyun, who was tied tightly on the bed. At this time, Qin Yunyun stared at the ceiling with lifeless eyes, muttering to herself. Kill Qin Shingwen, retribution, deserved it, go to hell. William. David suddenly laughed, and tears started to fall from his eyes. Yes, retribution. This is your retribution, and it is also my retribution. Dad, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me, Qin Wanning said with a worried look on her face. David was stunned for a moment, wiped his tears, and after calming down, he whispered, Ning Ning, contact a better mental hospital. What do you mean? Dad, are you going to send our third sister to a mental hospital? Contact them as soon as possible and send her in today. But our third sister hasn't been fully diagnosed yet. She's already crazy. David walked to the bedside and gently stroked Qin Yunyun's white hair. Even if she's cured, what's the point? She has to bear the consequences of her own mistakes. I'm tired and old. I don't want to go through this anymore. Also, go and get your second and fourth sister's discharged. I don't want to stay in a hospital anymore. But fourth sister's condition is not completely stable yet. She needs professional care. Then send her to a nursing home. Discharged? Chun Lang asked in surprise when she saw Chen Wanning had completed the formalities. Chun Wanning nodded. I have confirmed with the doctor that you are now stable. I have found a nursing home for you. Living there will be good for you. Chun Lang was silent for a moment, then slowly asked, Dad asked you to do it, right? Chun Wanning didn't answer, but just nodded. What about the second and third sisters? The second sister is also about to be discharged from the hospital. The third sister's current condition requires her to go to a mental hospital for treatment. Where's Dad? Why didn't he come to see me today? Something happened to the company, so he was in a hurry. I'll come to see you after I take care of my second sister's affairs. Did William agree to save you? Just as David was about to leave, he ran into Daisy, who came back angrily. She glared at him and said coldly, Haven't you given up on me? Why are you pretending to care about me now? David frowned. When did I give up on you? Even though he knew that even if he chose to save her, William might not agree, Daisy still felt resentful. Isn't it? Her eyes were filled with hatred. William said he could only save one person. Why didn't you choose me? Even if Chen Yunyun was saved, she wouldn't live long. Chen Lang's reputation would be ruined. What's the point of curing her leg? And what about me? I didn't do anything. I was the most filial and sensible one, but you gave up on me. I'm a doctor who saved countless lives, but in the end, I was abandoned by my own father. After saying that, she walked into the ward angrily and slammed the door. David stood there in a daze, his head buzzing with anger, unable to understand why she missed him so much. How could he give up his daughter? Second sister, didn't Dad say he had to hurry to the company? I saw he was chatting happily with Daisy. Chun Lang looked at Chen Wanning with an ambiguous smile on her face. She knew that her father had completely given up on her. Chun Wanning was speechless and finally could only explain, Fourth sister, Dad has been under a lot of pressure recently. 3 sisters have been in trouble one after another, and he really can't bear it. Don't worry, big sister. I know it's not easy for Dad either. Chun Lang smiled faintly. I'll go see Dad. He must be feeling uncomfortable right now. Don't let him get angry and hurt his body. When Chun Wanning walked out of the ward, the smile on Chun Lang's face completely disappeared, replaced by a gloomy look. Daisy, you bitch. Bitch, all of you are bitches. I hate you. I hate all of you. After returning to the ward, Daisy smashed everything she could. The hatred in her heart was like a volcanic eruption. She hates everyone. In her logic, she was never wrong, it was always others who were wrong. The one who was wrong was Chun Lang, who knew Chun Xingwen's character, but still encouraged her to save him and pushed herself into the abyss. The one who was wrong was Chun Xingwen, who destroyed her hand. Dora, who watched her die without caring about her life or death. The one who was wrong was William, who could have saved her, but refused to do so. The one who was wrong was David, who gave up on her in front of Chen Xingwen and Dora. These mistakes were all their fault. She swore that she would never forgive them in her life. Chapter 299, Third Sister, We Meet Again. William, David has sent Chen Yunyun here. Qin Xian's call surprised me. So soon? Yes, he sent her here yesterday at midnight. David didn't want to be seen, so he gave Chen Yunyun a sedative and she slept soundly. Both hospitals signed a confidentiality agreement. Okay, I understand. After hanging up the phone, I couldn't help but sneer. David, you really didn't disappoint me. I felt a wave of contempt in my heart. I knew he would give up on Chen Yunyun, but I didn't expect it to be so fast. He had just left me last night and had made up his mind. His speed was comparable to lightning. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but sneer, my eyes full of disdain for David. I didn't doubt that he had fatherly love for his daughters, but I knew that David, like the Chen family, only cared about himself. Their so-called fatherly love was just a means to cover up their selfishness. David's guilt had long since faded. He had always believed that the Chun family's current predicament was caused by him letting the wolf into the house, and he was using his daughter's future to make up for his mistakes. But now that he knew that these daughters were stupid and vicious, his guilt gradually dissipated. More importantly, he had been hoping that I would help him. But now, everything was ineffective. Even the will was useless. Chen Yunyun was completely useless. So, he chose to give up without hesitation. It's time to give my third sister a ride. I sneered to myself, with a cold light flashing in my eyes. Mental hospital. When I arrived, the director Zhou Qiang was already waiting at the door. I had already replaced most of the medical staff in the hospital. Those who had accepted benefits from Chen Xingwen and had assaulted me could not escape punishment in this life. Some people who broke the law had already been arrested, and others were excluded from this industry. The people who stayed, except Zhou Qiang and a few of his confidants, were the most ruthless people who attacked me in my previous life. Prophets can make them surrender, and the benevolent heart of a doctor is just a joke in front of them. William, welcome, welcome. Mr. Qin called and said you were coming to inspect, so I immediately put down what I was doing to welcome you. Zhou Qiang was extremely respectful when he saw me. Although Qin Xian was the nominal boss of this hospital, Zhou Qiang knew my identity and did not dare to neglect me at all. When I saw Zhou Qiang, all the painful times in my past life immediately came to my mind. I took a deep breath, suppressed my emotions, and didn't bother to talk nonsense with him. I got straight to the point. Take me to Qin Yunyun's ward. The turmoil in the Chun family has been a hot topic recently, and even Zhou Qiang, who is in his 50s, has heard a little about it. He knows the relationship between me and Qin Yunyun and smiled flatteringly. Okay, William, follow me. Soon as I entered the lobby, I felt that my money was well spent. Compared to my previous life, this place is a million times better. Since I acquired this hospital, I have spent a lot of money to improve the facilities. The 6th Imperial Psychiatric Hospital is now the top psychiatric hospital in Imperial Capital. If he didn't do this, David would never send his daughter here. After all, even David couldn't let his daughter suffer any injustice. A good environment would at least make him feel better. Of course, more importantly, the environment here is good, and it will not make him feel ashamed. In his previous life, he had no feelings for me at all, so he would naturally choose those places that were easiest to control, but this time, I let him experience different treatment. Zhou Qiang took me to the left ward on the 7th floor. There was an iron door at the entrance of the ward, and you couldn't see what was going on inside from outside. This was the only area of the hospital that had not been renovated. The paint on the walls was peeling, the iron door was rusty, the corridors were cramped, and the air was filled with a damp smell. All this deeply hurts my heart. This was the place where I was tortured, and now I want to make those who did evil here pay for it. Zhou Qiang walked more and more nervously, glancing at me from time to time. With every step I took, my face became more gloomy, and the cold air on my body made Zhou Qiang feel more and more depressed. Jiang, William, we're here. Zhou Qiang's voice trembled, and he was completely suffocated by the aura I exerted. I looked through the small glass window on the door and said coldly, "Open the door." William, the patient is very aggressive now. Open it. I interrupted him with impatience in my tone. Zhou Qiang was so frightened by my cold command that he broke out in a cold sweat and quickly opened the door. You can leave now. Zhou Qiang left as if he had been pardoned, and I looked at Chun Yunyun in the ward. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes were empty, and she kept mumbling something, completely unaware of my presence. Chun Yunyun looked the same as she did when she was in the hospital. After all, she had only just come in, but I knew that soon her appearance would change drastically. Third sister, we meet again. I sneered, with a cold light flashing in my eyes. Chapter 300. Murder. I stood at the door of Chun Yunyun's ward, looking through the thick glass at the once bright and beautiful face inside, now as old as dry bark. She had no reaction, sitting in a daze in the corner, as if she had gone completely crazy. I couldn't help but sneer. Sure enough, Chun Yunyun was indeed crazy. I pushed open the door and walked her aside step by step. I looked down at her from above. That face reminded me of many past events. The corners of my mouth were slightly raised with a sarcastic smile. If you're really crazy, that would be too boring. I stretched out a finger, and a golden light condensed from my fingertips and tapped it lightly on her forehead. After the golden light sank in, her cloudy eyes began to regain clarity. William. She looked at me and called out my name in confusion. Then, she stood up suddenly as if she was awakened, looking around, her face full of panic. Where is this? Why am I here? I took a step back and sneered. This is a mental hospital and you're hell. Mental hospital? Impossible. She widened her eyes and her expression gradually became ferocious. William, you must have captured me. You beast. Third sister, don't rush to blame me. The person who sent you here was your dear Father David. I said lightly, with a joking tone. She was stunned, then gritted her teeth and shook her head. Impossible. Dad would never do this to me. You are lying to me, right? I'm not crazy at all. I sneered, spread my hands, and said nonchalantly, lying to you? You've been crazy for a long time, but I just cured you. Are you grateful to me? Her eyes flickered, and a glimmer of hope rose in her heart. She rushed to me and said in a trembling voice, "Brother, since you are willing to heal me, does that mean you have forgiven me? Great. Help me get my essence and restore my youthful beauty. I can't stand this horrible look anymore." When I heard this, I couldn't help but burst out laughing, my eyes full of sarcasm. Third sister, did you misunderstand something? She was stunned and looked at me in astonishment. I cured you only to make you clearly experience despair and pain. My tone suddenly turned cold, and every word was like a knife, piercing her heart. What do you mean? Her voice began to tremble. Her hands tightly grasped the corners of her clothes, and her eyes were full of fear. What I mean is that you have been abandoned by David, and this mental hospital is now under my control. I said slowly with a faint smile on my face. From today on, this is your new home and your hell. No, no. William, you can't do this to me. I'm your sister. Her voice was piercing and tears flowed uncontrollably. Hearing this, the smile on my face disappeared without a trace, and my eyes became extremely cold. Sister, when I begged you Chin family back then, did you have any mercy? Third sister, do you think you can still escape from my grasp? Her face was pale, her lips trembled, and she finally knelt down. Don't do this, William. I beg you, let me go. I sneered, looked down at her miserable appearance, and slowly said, Third sister, you want to escape? Impossible. As long as I live, you have to stay here and suffer. She put her head in her hands and cried hysterically. You are crazy, William. You are crazy. I ignored her curse and raised my hand to cast a talisman, which fell directly into her mind. In an instant, her pupils dilated and her body stiffened. The power of the talisman unfolded in her mind, and scenes began to appear before her eyes. Some of these scenes were familiar to her, while others were things she had never seen before. She saw with her own eyes how I teamed up with Chun Xingwen to snatch my game company away, how I pushed me into a desperate situation, and even how I died in a riot in a mental hospital. No, it's impossible. William, none of this is true, she screamed, shaking her head desperately. I looked at her calmly, my tone cold and ruthless. In my previous life, your Chin family was so cruel to me. Now I'm just letting you experience it for yourself. This is just the beginning, third sister. Enjoy it slowly. After saying that, I turned and left. When I reached the door, I suddenly stopped, looked back at her, and raised a cruel smile at the corner of my mouth. By the way, Dean Joe. The dean immediately trotted over, smiling. William, what can I do for you? Add a few mirrors to my third sister's ward. Make sure they're the kind that can never be broken. I said coldly. She likes looking in the mirror, so let her enjoy her current face. The dean nodded repeatedly. Understood. I'll arrange it right away. Soon after, the walls of Chun Yunyun's hospital room were covered with mirrors. She looked at her old and ugly face in the mirror, screamed, and went crazy, and the whole person fell into madness. After I returned home, I stood in front of the big screen in the study and lightly tapped my finger, and the photo of Chin Yunyun turned black and white. Then I shifted my gaze to other photos of the Chun family on the screen, and a cold light flashed in my eyes. Whose turn is next? Chapter 301. Daisy goes to Ling Yuan. Baby, why did you come here suddenly? As soon as Ling Yuan opened the door, I saw Daisy standing at the door with a suitcase, her eyes red and her expression full of grievance. Ling Yuan, I have no home. Her voice trembled a little, and my eyes suddenly darkened. This woman finally took action. From the moment she began to hate David, she had already made up her mind to cut off all ties, including her father. Ling Yuan said nothing and hugged her in his arms with a concerned look on his face. It's okay, I'm here. From now on, wherever I am is your home. Daisy buried herself in his arms, her shoulders trembling slightly, tears flowing out like beads from a broken string, uncontrollable. I stood not far away, watching all this through the window. She thought she had performed the trick perfectly, but she didn't know that she had already fallen into my sight. Ling Yuan took her hand, pulled the suitcase into the house, and said soothingly, Okay, don't cry. You didn't let me visit you these days, and I was almost going crazy. His voice was gentle, but his tone was deliberately exaggerated. It seemed that he was deeply involved in this scene, since she had the car accident, and Ling Yuan naturally would not miss this opportunity to show off. I quietly collected my thoughts and looked away, but I could still hear her slightly crying voice. Ling Yuan, I don't want you to see me in such a mess. Embarrassed? That's not right. Manhwa Meng is the most beautiful woman in the world, even when she is sick and hospitalized. She burst into laughter, but soon she looked down at her hands, and a trace of deep sadness appeared on her face. Ling Yuan, my hands may never be able to hold a scalpel again. I can never be a doctor again. Will you dislike me? She looked up at Ling Yuan, her eyes full of inferiority and fear. You are the best psychologist in the country, but I have become a useless person now. Ling Yuan gently scratched her nose and smiled dotingly. Silly girl, I like you, but I don't like the way you perform surgery on others. It's just a change of living style. In my eyes, you will always be the best woman in the world. She hugged Ling Yuan and was so moved that she burst into tears. Hubby, you are so kind. At this moment, there was a hint of meaningful coldness in Ling Yuan's smile. After a moment, he asked casually, Huai Ming, you said you have no home. What happened? Who bullied you? I couldn't help but sneer when I heard this. Her performance was really flawless. It's William, she said through gritted teeth, with a strong hatred flashing in her eyes. Told Ling Yuan everything about how her family had plotted against her and how William had ignored her. After hearing this, Ling Yuan's face darkened. They are simply going too far. You also think they're going too far, right? After she got recognition, the grievance on her face suddenly turned into emotion, as if Ling Yuan was her only life-saving straw. You don't know how vicious William is. He actually wants to sow discord between you and me. When Ling Yuan heard this, his eyes flickered, and then he pretended to be curious. Oh, how did he instigate it? He said that if he wanted to heal my hand, he should let me come to you. She looked disdainful and snorted coldly. He obviously did it on purpose. Can you use psychology to repair my nerves? He's deliberately trying to make me hate you. This way, our relationship will be completely consumed. Hearing this, I couldn't help but raise my eyebrows. Her hatred for me was getting deeper and deeper, but Ling Yuan was already sweating profusely. He probably realized the problem. Was my words a test? Or did he already know something? At this moment, Ling Yuan's cell phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the incoming call number. His face froze instantly, and after answering the call, he whispered, Brother. By the lake in the He family's yard, Gu Tian was standing there, holding a handful of bait in his hand, feeding the fish nonchalantly. Ling Yuan stood behind him, slightly bent over, with a cautious look on his face. Brother. Ling Yuan, you've made me your big brother. Wait for a long time. Gu Tian's voice was light, but with a sense of oppression. Ling Yuan laughed dryly. Brother, I am afraid that you are busy with things after just returning home, so I dare not disturb you rashly. Gu Tian snorted coldly. His eyes gradually became colder. I heard that you and Daisy are very close? Brother, I'm just thinking about winning over another person. After all, my father's plan is very important, and I want to help him. Gu Tian sneered. Then tell me, what did you do? Ling Yuan's forehead was sweating, and he quickly said, Brother, William has been too aggressive recently. That guy is not simple. I am worried that I will alert the enemy. So, you didn't do anything? Gu Tian's voice was dangerous. Ling Yuan knelt down and begged for mercy. Brother, I have low talent, and I am afraid that I will ruin my father's plan. Gu Tian stared at him coldly. In this case, I don't expect you to succeed. Ling Yuan breathed a sigh of relief, stood up and said, Thank you, big brother, for your magnanimity. Gu Tian said calmly. However, since you want to help, I have a task for you. Brother, please give me your orders. Qin Xingwen is going back to the Qin family. He will definitely have a hard time when he returns. Gu Tian's eyes were cold. Daisy is now in your hands. Chapter 302, I would love to follow my brother-in-law. Ling Yuan got into the car, his face as cold as frost. Let Daisy forgive Qin Xingwen? What a joke. What Qin Xingwen did to Daisy was worse than an animal. If Daisy really wants to forgive him, unless he brainwashes Daisy directly. But he knows very well that if he does this, William will definitely target him first. At that time, he will not have a headache, but will go straight to the rooftop. He started the car irritably and left the He family mansion, but Gu Tian's sinister face kept appearing in his mind. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, and a crazy idea even popped up in his mind. Should I just leave the capital, find a secluded place to hide, and live a secluded life? But the next second he smiled bitterly again. Hide? That's a dead end. Gu Tian's people can skin him alive, and even his ashes will not be spared. Just as his head was about to split, the message from Chun Lang suddenly popped up in his mind. What is this woman trying to do by suddenly looking for me? He hesitated for only a short second before suddenly turning the steering wheel, and the car sped towards the Fukang sanatorium. Half an hour later, he stood at the door of Chun Lang's ward. The door was open, as if waiting for someone to arrive. Ling Yuan walked in. The ward was bright and sunny. Chun Lang, with delicate makeup, was sitting in a wheelchair on the balcony, resting with her eyes closed. Hearing the noise, she slowly turned the wheelchair with a faint smile on her lips. "Brother-in-law, we meet again." She stared at Ling Yuan's shadow reflected in the glass window, her tone revealing a hint of cunning. Ling Yuan leaned against the wall and smiled nonchalantly. "If you have anything to say, just say it directly. Don't beat around the bush." Chun Lang smiled slightly. "Since my brother-in-law is so straightforward, then I won't hide it," she said softly. "Brother-in-law, I have always been curious. What is your purpose in getting close to my second sister?" Ling Yuan smiled disapprovingly. "What purpose could there be? It's nothing more than a romance between a man and a woman." This perfunctory answer made Chun Lang feel a little unhappy, but she did not expose it. Instead, she changed the subject. "Has brother-in-law heard of Xinyu? Or does brother-in-law know Qin Xingwen?" Ling Yuan raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "Xinyu? I've heard some rumors that he is the bastard who harmed your third sister. As for Qin Xingwen, isn't he your brother?" This watertight answer immediately made Chun Lang alert. She stared at Ling Yuan and said tentatively, "Brother-in-law is really smart, but I'm not idle in gossiping. To tell you the truth, I called you here today to test you." Ling Yuan smiled. "Oh, testing me? What was the result?" "Not bad." Chun Lang curled her lips, and suddenly her tone sank. "Brother-in-law, I don't know why you approach my second sister, but if you also want to learn from Xianyu and suck my second sister's energy and turn her into an old lady." She deliberately prolonged the ending tone, looking at Ling Yuan with eyes like a sharp blade. "Then you have to think about it." Ling Yuan raised a teasing smile. "If fourth sister speculation is true, then the one standing in front of you now should be your second sister. Not you, right?" Chun Lang did not deny it and smiled softly. "Brother-in-law is really smart, but it doesn't matter. I called you here today just to discuss a deal." "Transaction?" Ling Yuan raised his eyebrows. "Tell me about it. I want you to heal my leg." Chun Lang's tone revealed a hint of stubbornness. Ling Yuan couldn't help but laugh. "Treat your legs? Fourth sister, you must have forgotten that I'm just a psychologist. The most I can do is make you feel better." Chun Lang shook her head and said firmly, "You can do it. William said you can do it, so you can do it." "William?" Ling Yuan narrowed his eyes and looked at her with interest. "It seems that you are really forced into a desperate situation." Chun Lang tightly grasped the armrest of the wheelchair and pretended to be calm, saying, "Yes, I am a disabled person now, but I am unwilling to die in such a cowardly way. I can agree to any condition you give me, as long as you heal my leg." Ling Yuan was silent for a while, then suddenly smiled. He raised his hand, and a cloud of black mist slowly appeared in his palm. He placed his hand on Chun Lang's shoulder. "Ah!" Chun Lang's pupils suddenly contracted, and the stinging pain on her shoulder made her gasp. This kind of power was definitely not something that an ordinary person could have. "How is it?" Ling Yuan looked down at her with cold eyes. "Since fourth sister is sure that I have the ability, you should also know that it would only take a wave of my hand for me to take your life." Chun Lang was filled with fear, but she forced herself to calm down. Even though her body was shaking from the pain, she still gritted her teeth and said, "If death can free me, then it might not be a bad ending." Hearing this, Ling Yuan's eyes flashed with surprise, but then he smiled. He raised his hand, and the black mist dissipated instantly, and the pain in Chun Lang's shoulder also disappeared. "Are you willing to give me whatever I want?" Ling Yuan gently lifted her chin with his fingers, his eyes deep and dangerous. Chun Lang's throat rolled slightly, but her eyes were firm. "As long as I can live with dignity, anything is fine." Ling Yuan chuckled. "Well, I want 20 years of your luck. 20 years of luck in exchange for a pair of healthy legs. Is this a good deal?" 20 years? Chun Lang's pupil shrank. "That's right, 20 years of good luck in exchange for your right to stand up." Ling Yuan's tone was indifferent, as if he was talking about an insignificant matter. Chun Lang was silent, holding the blanket tightly with both hands. She looked at Ling Yuan's handsome but dangerous face, feeling mixed emotions. 20 years of luck meant that she would have nothing in the next 20 years. But if she continued to sit in a wheelchair, she would not even have dignity in her life. After a moment, Her eyes became firm, the corners of her lips slowly raised, and a hint of charm appeared between her eyebrows. Okay, it's a deal. She gently held Ling Yuan's hand, and the smile on her lips revealed determination and a hint of unpredictability. Chapter 303. I'm a waste. Are you all ready? Chun Xingwen had just returned to the room when a deep voice suddenly sounded from the darkness, scaring him so much that he almost knocked over the table. He stood up straight in a hurry, trying to make his voice sound respectful and flattering. Ready, ready? I have convinced my mother, and I am just waiting for you to give the order, brother. I can go back to the Chen family at any time. He gritted his teeth when he said this. His mother Dora hated the Chun family so much that she would tremble with anger every time she mentioned David and the whip in the basement. But he persuaded her with the excuse of taking back their property. Gu Tian walked out from the shadows, nodded slightly, and looked mockingly. Do you know what will happen to you after you return to the Chun family? Chun Xingwen lowered his head and clenched his fist unconsciously. I know. So you're still willing to go back? Since it is your order, big brother, I will just do it. Big brother must have your considerations, Chun Xingwen said humbly, but his tone revealed a hidden ruthlessness. Gu Tian sneered. Not bad. You know how to judge the situation. I was right about you. Chun Xingwen didn't say anything, but his lowered eyes were full of hatred. Now, do you understand why you lose to William again and again? Gu Tian suddenly asked. Chun Xingwen's teeth trembled slightly, but he still answered in a low voice. I understand, because I am too weak and useless. This was the evaluation Gu Tian gave him, and he could only swallow it. That's good to know. Gu Tian's smile was chilling, but don't worry too much. I will help you get back all the humiliation William brought you, as long as you listen to me. Thank you, big brother. Chun Xingwen whispered, but he only felt resentment towards Gu Tian in his heart. He knew that Gu Tian was not helping him, but was just using him as a pawn. But now he had no capital to resist. More importantly, he hated William more than he hated Gu Tian. As long as he could use Gu Tian to overthrow William, he would endure anything. When he was fully grown, he would definitely not let Gu Tian go. Gu Tian seemed to have seen through his thoughts completely, his face still calm. Don't worry, I asked you to go back to the Chen family, but I didn't ask you to be whipped. You are my brother. I will protect you. Chun Xingwen felt a little relieved, but he didn't ask any more questions. He had learned that Gu Tian hated people asking questions. He had been tortured by the black energy in Gu Tian's hand for many days. The pain was like skinning and cramping, which made him just want to shut up. Come here. Gu Tian's voice was emotionless. Chun Xingwen walked over tremblingly, only to see Gu Tian hand him a black wooden box. Open it and take a look. He opened the box with trembling hands, and inside was a shiny black bead. This is a magical weapon for self-defense. With it, William's metaphysical methods can no longer hurt you. If he uses force, he will be the one who suffers the backlash. Gu Tian explained calmly. Chun Xingwen's eyes lit up slightly, and he felt a little more confident. Okay, now Chen Yunyan has gone crazy, and Chun Lang has been dealt with by me, so half of your way is cleared. Who do you plan to win over next? Gu Tian asked. Chun Xingwen pondered for a moment, and said cautiously, Chen Wanning. Reason? She's the most ruthless person in the Chen family. As long as I give her benefits, she will work for me. Chun Xingwen spoke in a low voice, deliberately sounding like he was asking for advice. Gu Tian nodded. Not bad. But don't forget your sixth sister, Chen Qiwen. Chen Qiwen? She has been abroad and has no contact with the Chun family. Wouldn't it be easier to operate if there was less contact? Call her back. Gu Tian showed a satisfied smile. It seems that all this time of torturing you was not in vain. Your brain has finally grown. You are worthy of being my brother. After saying that, he turned and left, leaving only one sentence. Start taking action. Once you have dealt with these two people, you can return to the Chin family. Also, I will have someone send you a document that should be helpful to you. Chun Xingwen stood there until Gu Tian's footsteps disappeared. Then he slowly raised his head. His face looked gloomy and cold in the sunlight. After a moment, he picked up his phone and made a call. After the call was connected, a deep female voice sounded. Brother? Why are you calling me suddenly? Is something wrong? Chun Xingwen immediately changed to a weak tone. Sick sister? Can you come back? The family is in turmoil now. I can't stand it anymore. A few minutes later, he hung up the phone with a sneer on his face. He was not worried at all that Qin Shiwen would confirm anything with the Qin family. After all, in the Qin family, Everyone treated her as a lunatic, and the only person willing to talk to her was him. He walked out the door again, ready to look for Chin Wanning. After getting in the car, the driver respectfully handed him a document. Young master, my name is Hee Chung Yang, and I'm your future assistant and bodyguard. If you need anything in the future, just let me know. Chun Xingwen was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Did my brother ask you to come? Yes. He took the document, looked at it for a few seconds, and suddenly sneered. The Chun family is selling off its property? Hee Chung Yang nodded. Yes, the Chun family has been quietly selling off their assets since they got close to the Rong family. They are afraid that if they break off relations with you, they will completely lose the support of the Rong family. Chun Xingwen snorted coldly. David is really calculating. He wants to dump me after using me. Hee Chung Yang said respectfully, Young master, don't worry. With the eldest master and the He family here, the Chun family's property won't be sold for a penny. Chun Xingwen smiled slightly, but his eyes were full of coldness. Thank Big Brother for me. He really has good intentions. Chapter 3:0, for I will make sure William will never be able to stand up again. Chun Xingwen entered the password with ease and pushed open the door of Chun Wanning's house. After making sure that no one was in the house, he ordered a pizza and sat on the sofa, enjoying the meal comfortably. It was not until after 7 o'clock in the evening that Chun Wanning dragged her tired body through the door and looked up to see Chun Xingwen leisurely eating pizza on the sofa. Who asked you to come? Chun Wanning's face darkened instantly. Get out of here in 3 seconds, or I'll call security. Chun Xingwen calmly put down the pizza, wiped the corner of his mouth with a smile, and said, Sister, don't be anxious. I came here today to talk to you. I have nothing to talk about with you, Chun Wanning said coldly. Besides, I don't have a brother like you. You have it. Chun Xingwen stared at her with confidence. And this brother can let you inherit all the Chun family's assets, and even help you push the Chun family to the top position of the imperial capital. If you want to bring down the Qin family, I can also help you. Bring down the Qin family? Chun Wanning couldn't help but sneer. Chun Xingwen, you don't think that just because the old man of the Rong family adopted you as his adopted son, you really think you have the final say in the entire imperial capital, right? Chun Xingwen shrugged, still with a faint smile on his face. I dare not say anything about the Rong family, but I'm sure that I can have the final say about the He family. The He family? Chun Wanning almost laughed out loud. Don't tell me that you saved the head of the He family, so the He family is now your dog. She obviously didn't believe it. Although the He family rarely moved around in the imperial capital, their status in the business world was unquestionable, and they could even compete with top families like the Zhou family. How could such a family be controlled by a small character like Chun Xingwen? But Chun Xingwen looked normal, without any anger after being ridiculed. After experiencing Gu Tian's torture, he was no longer the young master who could only use pitiful behavior to gain sympathy. He knew that facing a tough character like Chun Wanning, the only thing that could move her was interests. Sister, Chun Xingwen smiled slightly, but her tone was firm. Recently, the Chun family is selling off their assets, and part of it is being sold to a branch of the He family in imperial capital, right? These words made Chun Wanning suddenly stunned. She had always been in charge of the family's property sales, and the process was extremely secretive. Chun Xingwen actually knew about it, and he even accurately said that the buyer was the He family. Her expression gradually became solemn, and she thought to herself, could it be that he didn't lie? Seeing that she remained silent, Chun Xingwen continued, If you don't believe me, I'll prove it to you. He took out his cell phone and dialed a number. Brother He, please stop the project of acquiring Qin Group. After hanging up the phone, he still sat on the sofa with a relaxed look, watching Chun Wanning's reaction. Sure enough, within a few minutes, Chun Wanning's phone rang. Mr. Chen, I'm sorry. After evaluation, our company has decided to give up the acquisition of Chun Group. The other party's voice was cold, and he hung up the phone without even giving her a chance to refute. Chun Wanning's face darkened instantly, and she looked up at Chun Xingwen, who was still leisurely leaning on the sofa, twirling his phone with his fingers, with a proud and flamboyant smile on his face. Sister, can we have a good chat now? Chun Xingwen said lazily. Or do you plan to find another buyer? I can assure you that as long as the He family is here, the Chun family's property won't be sold for a penny. Chun Wanning took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in her heart, walked over to sit opposite him, and asked, What do you want to talk about? Chun Xingwen's smile deepened. I want to go back to the Chun family. You want to go back? Chun Wanning sneered. No one is stopping you. Or, do you want me to pick you up in person? Sister, you misunderstood, Chun Xingwen said with a serious expression. I want to go back to our past relationship. The past? You mean, let me pretend that what you did never happened. That's right. Chen Xingwen looked at her directly, his tone firm. In the past, I was indeed young and insecure, and I did some wrong things, such as cheating you a few times, causing you to lose William, your big backer. But now it's different. I have the ability to be your backer and help you get everything back. Dad has already made a will, leaving the largest share of the property to William, he sneered. You accepted it on the surface, but you are not willing in your heart, right? If you cooperate with me, you can not only take back everything of the Chun family, but also make the Chun family stand at the top. Even if you don't like the Chun family and want to start your own business, I can ask the He family and the Rong family to help you. How about it? Chun Wanting was silent for a long time and finally spoke. What about you? Now the He family and the Rong family are your backers. You have everything you need. Why do you want to go back to the Chun family? It's very simple, Chen Xingwen said with a cold smile. I want to make sure William will never be able to turn over again. Chapter 305. Welcome back, Chen Xingwen. Sixth sister. At the Imperial Capital International Airport, Chen Xingwen saw the familiar figure in the crowd and immediately waved his hands, his face full of excitement. He held a bouquet of flowers in his hand and smiled as if he had seen a savior. Chen Xingwen, dressed in black, lowered her head and stared at her phone. When she heard the voice, she raised her head, and her nose and lip rings reflected slightly under the light. When she saw Chen Xingwen, she quickened her pace a bit, and even a faint smile flashed in her eyes. Sixth sister, you're finally back. I missed you so much. Chen Xingwen handed the flowers to her. Thank you. Chen Xingwen's tone was indifferent, but there was a rare softness between her brows. Sixth sister, come on. I'll take you to eat something delicious. Good. The two got into the car, the Rolls-Royce that Gu Tian gave to Chen Xingwen. After Chen Xingwen got in the car, she showed no surprise or interest at all, just leaning against the seat and continuing to fiddle with her phone. Chen Xingwen did not disturb her and sat quietly beside her. Suddenly, Chen Xingwen screamed, What's wrong, sixth sister? Chen Xingwen was startled and asked quickly. He replied to my message. Brother, he really replied to my message. Chen Xingwen's face was full of excitement that she couldn't hide. Chen Xingwen was stunned. He had never seen his sixth sister show such a rich expression. She was always cold and indifferent to everyone, even to her family. But now, she actually showed such joy because of someone's news. He? Who is he? Chen Xingwen asked with a smile. Sixth sister, am I going to have a sixth brother-in-law soon? Chen Xingwen was stunned for a moment after hearing this, then shook her head. No, he is not the person I like. He is just my idol. Idol. Chen Xingwen raised his eyebrows, quite curious. Sixth sister, there is actually someone who can be your idol? Well, he's the most powerful person I have ever met, Chen Xingwen said seriously. Chen Xingwen's eyes changed slightly. His sixth sister had always looked down on everyone, even those in the family. She had never looked straight at them. She had the capital, high IQ, strong ability, and now she was a top hacker. And this person could make her admire him so much that she was even willing to call him an idol? However, Chen Xingwen did not continue to ask questions, but changed the subject with a smile. While waiting for dinner, he finally asked, Sixth sister, will it affect your studies abroad if I ask you to come back this time? No. Chen Xingwen shook her head casually. I have already dropped out of school. Drop out? Chen Xingwen was so shocked that he almost dropped his chopsticks. Sixth sister, this is the top program you've always been so proud of. The things they taught in school were too stupid. I found them boring, she said calmly. So, I dropped out. Do parents know? Why should I tell them? Chen Xingwen said matter-of-factly. This is my life. I can do whatever I want. Chen Xingwen was stunned for a moment, then nodded. You're right, sixth sister. You have always been such a cool person. After dinner, Chen Xingwen first sent Chen Xingwen back to Chen's house. Looking at her calm appearance, he vaguely understood one thing. She came back not only because something went wrong in the Chen family, but she had her own purpose. The difference of family dinner. When Chen Xingwen returned to the Chen family, the atmosphere at home was no longer depressed. The dining table was filled with sumptuous dishes, and the lights were bright, making it seem particularly lively. What day is today? Why are there so many dishes? Fiona saw this scene as soon as she entered the door, her face full of confusion. Before she could react, a familiar engine sound came from behind her. David and Chen Wanting got out of the car and walked into the house together. Dad, big sister, you're back? She looked at the two of them in surprise, especially Chen Wanting. She hadn't come back since she had a falling out with Dora. Well, something happened at home today, so we came back to have a reunion dinner. Chen Wanting answered calmly. with a hint of unusual meaning in her words. At this time, Chen Shiwen walked out of the living room and said indifferently, "Dad, eldest sister, seventh sister, you are back." The moment they saw Chen Shiwen, David and Chen Wanning were both stunned, and then they concealed their inner shock. "Shiwen, when did you come back?" David asked with concern. "Today." Chen Shiwen answered briefly, walked straight to the dining table, and sat down, as indifferent as ever. Fiona stood there, her eyes scanning between the Chun family members, and suddenly asked, "Dad, big sister, did you know they were back a long time ago?" No one answered her question. Instead, Chen Xingwen smiled and broke the silence. "Seventh sister, don't be angry. Today is a reunion day. Let's have dinner together." "Reunion?" Fiona sneered. "Dad, have you forgotten? My second sister's hand was broken. My third sister was admitted to a mental hospital. And my fourth sister can never stand up again. All of this was caused by this beast. How can you still sit at the same table with him now?" "Shut up." David slammed the table. "No one in this family is allowed to mention William from now on." Fiona looked at her father in shock, while Chen Xingwen raised the corners of his lips and revealed a meaningful smile. At the same time, William sat in front of the screen, staring at the frozen image in the surveillance video. The provocative smile of Chen Xingwen when he removed the camera. After a long while, he chuckled. "Chen Xingwen, are you declaring war on me?" Then he whispered to himself, "What on earth does the person behind you want to do?" Chapter 307, we finally meet Dr. Ling. Fiona left the Chin family. She felt so aggrieved and miserable that she didn't know where to go, so she had to find a hotel to stay in temporarily. She lay on the bed, her thoughts in a mess, unable to make sense of them. Just a few days ago, the family hated Chen Xingwen and Dora to the core. How come they suddenly became a happy family? She just felt that she was abandoned by the whole world, and her heart was broken. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door. Knock, knock. Fiona walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Her pupils suddenly contracted, and she opened the door excitedly. "Brother William." William didn't say anything more, just walked into the room and closed the door. "Brother William, why are you here? Did you come here specifically to see me?" Fiona's tone revealed suppressed surprise, and a smile finally appeared on her sad face. "Why did you leave the Chin family?" William asked directly. Fiona was stunned for a moment. "You? How did you know? Answer me." William's tone became more impatient. Fiona had suppressed in her heart was suddenly aroused, and the flash of disgust in William's eyes made her eyes red. "Because the mother and son are back." She gritted her teeth, and Dad and big sister are actually on their side. "So, you were kicked out?" William frowned. "What's David's attitude?" Fiona told him everything that happened last night. After listening to him, William sneered, with a hint of coldness in his eyes. It seems that Chen Xingwen must have given David and Chen Wanting enough benefits this time. He said to himself. Fiona spoke timidly. "Brother William, you came to me suddenly. Has something happened?" There was still a glimmer of hope in her words, wondering if William was finally willing to forgive her. William was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, "Give me the phone." Fiona didn't understand. She still handed the phone over obediently. William took out his own phone, lowered his head to operate it for a while before returning it to her. "Nianwei," he looked up at her, his voice low. "Have you ever thought about why your father and elder sister's attitudes suddenly changed?" "I don't know, and I don't want to know," Fiona said angrily. "But don't worry, I will never forgive them." William suddenly stared at her and asked coldly, "Do you still want my forgiveness?" Fiona's heart was shocked, and ecstasy welled up in her eyes. "Brother William, are you willing to forgive me?" William shook his head. "No, I won't forgive you." Fiona's face froze instantly, and she stood still. But William then added, "But I need you to do something for me." "What's the matter?" Fiona asked blankly, with a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "No matter what it is, I'm willing to help you," William said calmly. "I want you to go back to the Chun family." After William left, Fiona sat alone in the room, feeling very mixed up. Go back to Chin's house? Why go back to that place? But no matter what, she has made up her mind. Since Brother William has given her a task, she will not let him down. As long as she works hard, Brother William will definitely forgive her. The next morning, before Fiona left the house, Chen Wanning came to find her. As soon as I saw her, the anger from last night instantly surged up in my heart. "What are you doing here?" she asked coldly. "Dad asked me to come and see you." Chen Wanning's tone was flat, but with a hint of concern. "What's so good about me?" Fiona sneered. If you have the time, you might as well spend more time loving your good brother. Oh no, your adopted brother, who is not related by blood. Chun Wanning's face suddenly darkened. Fiona, in your eyes, are Dad and I like this? Isn't it? Fiona asked with a sneer. Chun Xingwen caused the family to be destroyed, and you guys actually acted as if nothing happened and sat down to eat with them. I'm so disappointed in you. Fiona, why? Did it hit you where it hurts? Chun Wanning was choked by her and was so angry that she couldn't say a word, but looking at Fiona's angry eyes, she suddenly sighed. Forget it, there's no point explaining this to you. You're still young, and you'll understand some things when you grow up. Everything we do now is for the Chin family. After she finished speaking, she paused and continued, It's too dangerous for you to live in a hotel. The house I lived in before is closer to your school and safer than here. Go there. I'm not going. Fiona, stop it. I'm not making a fuss. Fiona raised her head stubbornly. I've made up my mind. I want to go home. Go home. Chun Wanning glared at her. What are you going back for? To confront Qin Xingwen? Fiona shook her head. Don't worry, I won't. She sneered. Since you can accept him, then so can I. Confrontation in the hospital. At the same time, William came to the hospital and pushed open the door of the clinic. Ling Yuan, who was sitting opposite him, raised his head. We finally meet, Dr. Ling. Ling Yuan paused for a moment, then smiled. I thought it was a duplicate name, but I didn't expect it was really you. William smiled faintly. It seems that you are not surprised at all? No surprises. I knew we would meet sooner or later. Ling Yuan smiled. William is looking for me. Are you feeling unwell? No, William looked deep in his eyes. I just have a question. Why would an adopted son who has already found a backer return to those people who want to skin him alive? Ling Yuan's smile instantly became more meaningful. This question is very interesting. Chapter 308 I hope you can let me go. Ling Yuan blinked and replied in a relaxed tone. William, wouldn't it be more appropriate for you to ask the adopted son directly about this question? William heard this, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. He said calmly, It seems that Dr. Ling is not going to help me solve my doubts, so let me change the question. I heard that my fourth sister's paralyzed legs have been cured. Dr. Ling has a wide range of experience in this matter, right? William, thank you for the compliment. It's just a piece of cake. Ling Yuan's tone remained calm. It's just a piece of cake? You can't just say that. William smiled even more. For this kind of favor, I'm afraid my fourth sister will have to thank you with the most important thing, such as luck. Ling Yuan remained calm and replied with a smile. It's something we both agree on, so it shouldn't affect William's plan, right? My plan. William raised his eyebrows slightly, smiling. Dr. Ling is quite clear about it. However, not everyone can guess what my plan is. Ling Yuan sat up straight after hearing this, and the smile on his face deepened. My knowledge is limited, but one thing is certain. The Chen family will not have a good ending. Outsider? William sneered. Dr. Ling is already involved, and he still wants to be an outsider? If it weren't for the sake of saving my life, how could someone like me dare to jump in front of a strong man like William, who can draw thunder with his bare hands? Ling Yuan smiled bitterly, then picked up a pen and paper, wrote a word, and handed it to William. William took the piece of paper, glanced at it, and saw only one word written on it. Congratulations. Seeing this, William understood. It was obviously impossible to pry anything out of Ling Yuan's mouth. After all, as a master of mysticism, there were too many ways to make the other party keep silent. William looked at Ling Yuan deeply, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. He could feel that Ling Yuan's fear of him was real, and he really needed this person in his future plans, so he didn't plan to make things difficult for him for the time being. However, William suddenly seemed to remember something and smiled mischievously. By the way, Dr. Ling, I have something else to ask you. Please ask, William. Should I call you my second brother-in-law or my fourth brother-in-law now? William's voice was calm but powerful. Ling Yuan's face froze for a moment, but he soon regained his smile and asked, Which sister do you think is more suitable for me, William? Of course it's my fourth sister, William said slowly. After all, your heart has long been with her. Otherwise, why did you heal her leg but let my second sister's hand be disabled? William paused, his tone a little cold. However, my second sister is kind by nature, so don't neglect her too much. Now that her hands are broken, she needs your care. Ling Yuan looked very serious when he heard this, and said seriously, William really has a deep relationship with the two sisters. Don't worry, I will take good care of them and will never show favoritism. That's good. William chuckled and stood up. Dr. Ling, I am very satisfied with today's conversation. We will meet again soon. It's my honor. Ling Yuan stood up, still maintaining a gentle smile. William turned and walked to the door. Just as his hand touched the door handle, Ling Yuan's voice came from behind him. William. William paused and looked back at him. Ling Yuan had a complicated expression and spoke in a low voice. If one day you can tear through this dark sky, I only ask you to let me go. I am different from people like Xian Yu. William heard this, raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth, and without saying anything more, he opened the door and left. The moment the door closed, his face turned cold, and his eyes were full of coldness. Let you go? Ling Yuan, I haven't forgotten who gave me the insanity certificate in my previous life. In the clinic, Ling Yuan breathed a sigh of relief after William left. The cold sweat from earlier had already soaked his back. Although he had always appeared relaxed and calm, the invisible pressure from William made him almost unable to breathe. This kid is more difficult to deal with than that old man Gu Tian. Ling Yuan muttered to himself, and then dialed the phone. Brother, William just came to see me. I was almost scared to death. At the same time, at the Chen family villa, a Rolls-Royce slowly stopped, the door opened, and Chen Xingwen helped an elegant woman out of the car. Fourth sister, be careful. Chun Lang smiled and got out of the car, holding Chen Xingwen's hand. Don't worry, brother. Fourth sister's leg is healed. If you don't believe me, just look. After saying that, she deliberately walked back and forth in front of him. Chen Xingwen still reminded carefully. No matter how good it is, you still have to be careful. After all, your leg has just recovered. Okay, I get it. You're so nagging at such a young age. Chun Lang smiled and took his hand, and the two of them walked into the villa while chatting and laughing. Inside the house, Chen's mother Dora came out upon hearing the noise and smiled when she saw Chun Lang. Ying is back. Yes, Mom. Chun Lang went forward and hugged her, saying sweetly, I missed you so much. But in this warm atmosphere, a cold snort broke the silence. Humph, so hypocritical. A cold voice came from Fiona. She sat lazily on the sofa, flipping through her phone, and glanced coldly at Chun Lang, who had just entered the room. Fiona's phone was sending several fast messages. William, Chun Lang is really back, and she was hugging the mother and child. It was disgusting, but her legs are really healed. It's miraculous. Chapter 309, brother, did William bully you? In the dim room, Chen Shiwen lay on the bed. Her fingers slid quickly on the keyboard, refreshing the private message dialog box with her idol over and over again. However, the messages on the screen were like a stone sinking into the sea, with no response at all. Why are you ignoring me? She murmured to herself, her tone full of grievance and loss. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Sixth sister, can I come in? It was Chen Xingwen's voice. Chen Xingwen frowned slightly, raised her hand to close the laptop, and replied indifferently, come in. The door was pushed open, and Chen Xingwen and Chun Lang walked in. Chen Xingwen looked up at them and said in a cold tone, What's the matter? Didn't fourth sister just come back? I brought her to see you. Chen Xingwen smiled gently, but there was a hint of temptation in his eyes. Chen Xingwen glanced at Chun Lang and said in a neutral tone, Fourth sister, is your leg okay? Chun Lang has always understood this eccentric sister, so she just chuckled and said, It's okay, she's recovering well. Chen Xingwen nodded and said nothing more. There was an awkward silence in the room. Chen Xingwen took the initiative to change the subject and chatted with Chun Xingwen casually. Chun Lang sat aside without saying a word, looking lonely. Fourth sister, what's wrong with you? Chen Xingwen asked casually. Chun Lang came back to her senses and forced a smile. It's okay, I just suddenly wondered whether I should go find William. Looking for William? Chen Xingwen pretended to be surprised. Why are you looking for him? We founded our company together, but he destroyed it. I couldn't accept this and wanted to ask him why he did this. Chun Lang's tone was filled with confusion and anger. Chen Xingwen shrugged and said with a wry smile, Forget it, fourth sister. His game company is now thriving. We are no match for him at all. When Chen Xingwen heard this, she narrowed her eyes and suddenly said, Brother, did William bully you? Chen Xingwen waved his hands quickly. No, sixth sister, this is probably a misunderstanding. I believe he didn't do it on purpose. Chen Xingwen did not ask any more questions. She just stood up, opened the suitcase in the corner, took out a backpack from the cabinet, and put the laptop in it. She dragged the suitcase without saying a word and prepared to leave. When she reached the door, She stopped, turned around, and said to Chen Xingwen indifferently, "Brother, I have to go out for something. Call me if you have anything." After she finished speaking, she left without looking back. Chen Xingwen raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and after watching her walk away, he revealed a meaningful smile. "Fourth sister, do you think sixth sister will really deal with William?" Chun Lang couldn't help asking when Chen Xingwen returned to the corridor. "Hasn't she already gone?" Chen Xingwen said firmly with a sinister smile on his face. "But can sixth sister do this?" Chun Lang frowned, with a hint of hesitation in her eyes. "William's computer skills are not bad. Otherwise, he would not have easily destroyed my company before." "Fourth sister," Chen Xingwen laughed softly. "Sixth sister's ability is beyond your imagination. To put it bluntly, as long as she wants, she can destroy William's company in a few minutes." Upon hearing this, Chen Lang showed a trace of astonishment on her face, and a guess suddenly popped up in her mind. Could it be that Chen Chiwen is a hacker? On the other side, Chen Chiwen had already arrived in a dim room. The cold light of the laptop illuminated her cold face. Her eyes were as cold as a knife, and her fingers were typing on the keyboard like flying. "The firewall is well built. It looks like it cost a lot of money." She sneered, with a hint of sarcasm in her eyes. "What a pity. Who allowed you to bully my brother?" The corners of her mouth raised into an evil smile. "Go to hell, William." At the same time, in the general manager's office of Enian Games, "Mr. E, something bad has happened. Our game backend has been attacked by hackers." An employee rushed in. When Jie heard the news, his face changed suddenly, and he immediately got up and rushed to the computer room. The computer room was in chaos. "What's the situation?" Jie asked anxiously. "The other party is very strong, a top hacker, and has already broken through the first firewall. There are no problems with our backend for now, but if we delay any further..." At this moment, a shrill alarm sounded and everyone's faces turned pale. However, just when everyone was at a loss, a line of text suddenly appeared on the screen. "Welcome aboard, William." At that moment, Chen Chiwen's screen also froze. She frowned and looked at the code in front of her, a chill rising in her heart. Is this an anti-tracking program? William was watching the real-time surveillance in his office, with a playful smile on his face, muttering, "You want to destroy my company in just a few minutes? It seems that you still underestimated me." He picked up his phone and made a call. "Send me her signal location. I will meet this hacker in person tonight." Chapter 310. Chen Chiwen received a pair of silver bracelets. "Hello, I want to call the police. Our game company was attacked by hackers hired by our competitors and suffered heavy losses. The hackers are located." After hanging up the phone, William stared at the screen with a sarcastic smile on his face. "Chen Chiwen, this is all you can do." As soon as he finished speaking, his eyes turned cold, and his fingers quickly tapped on the keyboard, each stroke like the sound of a war drum. He was not panicked at all, but rather at ease, like a swordsman sweeping through thousands of troops on a digital battlefield, with each piece of exquisite code quickly building an indestructible defense barrier. In less than a minute, the game backend returned to normal, and everything was calm. On the other side, Chen Chiwen stared at the monitor, her eyes full of disbelief. How is that possible? Cold sweat gradually seeped out of her forehead. How could William have a hacker with such technical level under his command? But her fighting spirit did not die. She gritted her teeth and tapped her fingers rapidly again, trying to break through the opponent's defense. However, no matter how hard she tried, Enian's game firewall remained motionless. "This is impossible." She gritted her teeth, beads of sweat on her forehead sliding down her cheeks. But she was completely unaware that her every move had already been fully recorded by the hidden camera in the room. From the moment she took action, William followed the clues, accurately locked her address, and quietly hacked into her device, turning it all into evidence. At the same time, there was chaos in Enian Games' computer room. "What's going on? Why did some players say that their equipment was recycled by the system?" Zhao Yongyan rushed into the computer room, furious. "Someone attacked our backstage." Jie's face turned pale. "Damn it, hurry and fix it. If we delay any longer, our company's reputation will be ruined." At this moment, an employee suddenly exclaimed, "Wait, it seems that an expert has taken over the backstage." "What?" Jie was shocked, and everyone held their breath. A few seconds later, the employee stood up tremblingly. "Mr. He, the system has returned to normal." The entire computer room was in dead silence, and then a deafening cheer broke out. Jie finally breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Okay. Who did it?" a reward of 100,000. However, everyone looked at each other, and finally their eyes were cast on the employee with the best technical skills in the company. The employee looked confused. It's not me. I don't understand what was done just now. Hijie was about to continue asking questions when his cell phone suddenly rang. The caller ID told him to quickly walk out of the computer room to answer the call. Shout, I'm sorry, I neglected my observation. On the other end of the phone, William said in a relaxed tone, Brother, don't worry, the problem has been solved. The police should catch the person soon, and please comfort the player as well. Hijie hung up the phone, his mind still a little confused. It was not until he saw Chen Shiwen being taken into the interrogation room at the police station that he finally came to his senses and couldn't help laughing softly. Xiao Yi, you are really a hidden talent. At the police station, William met lawyer Qin Xian, and they walked into the interrogation room together. In the interrogation room, Chen Shiwen was handcuffed and looked indifferent. She looked up and saw William, her eyes full of disgust. Don't call me sick, sister. I don't have a brother like you. William was not annoyed at all when he heard this, and even smiled more deeply. Sick, sister. Why did you attack Inyin's game? Because you bullied Oscar. Chen Shiwen said in a cold tone. Oh, William chuckled. So the day after you returned home, you got yourself a pair of silver handcuffs? Chen Shiwen turned her head away and ignored him. William was not angry either. He turned to look at Qin Xian and said, Lawyer Qin, my sick sister doesn't seem to be very clear about her situation. Can you explain it to me? Qin Xian nodded and said seriously, Ms. Chun, according to the Chinese criminal law, your behavior has been suspected of 3 crimes. The crime of destroying computer information systems, the crime of illegally controlling computer information systems, and the crime of infringing on trade secrets. Each crime carries a sentence of 3 to 7 years, and multiple crimes can be punished together. William raised his eyebrows. If you were sentenced for multiple crimes, how many years will it be? Qin Xian smiled slightly. Theoretically, it can reach 20 years. Chen Shiwen sneered. Apologize? Compensate? William, do you think I'm afraid of going to jail? It's just a matter of a few years. William's face gradually disappeared, and his tone was calm. Sick sister, do you think this is just a matter of going to jail? Do you think the Chen family can still withstand your torment this time? Chen Shiwen's heart trembled, but she still stared at him stubbornly. William took a step closer, his voice as cold as frost. Remember, this is the last chance I give you. The atmosphere in the entire interrogation room seemed to be frozen, and Chen Shiwen finally felt a hint of fear. Chapter 3:11, she seems a little abnormal. William narrowed his eyes slightly and stared at Chen Shiwen, who looked calm across from him. She didn't look panicked at all, and even revealed a chilling calmness and determination. This was not bluffing. She really didn't care going to jail. This made William feel confused. Chen Shiwen, the only sister in the Chen family who had never directly attacked him, was also the one he could not understand the most. In her previous life, she didn't show any extra concern for him, nor did she mock him like other people. She just treated him coldly, as if he were a transparent person. However, she was completely different towards Chen Xingwen. She was not enthusiastic, but she would respond to every word Chen Xingwen said. Even if he just said, sick sister, he bullied me. Please help me solve it. She would never ask any more questions and would just do it. In his previous life, he had worked so hard to build a company, but Chen Shiwen used hacking skills to help him take away the company just because Chen Xingwen said, I did it. William never understood why this sick sister was so loyal to Chen Xingwen. She was just like a hound that obeyed its master unconditionally. He asked tentatively, Chen Shiwen, have you been online since you returned to China? Chen Shiwen glanced at him coldly and didn't answer. William chuckled, his tone more playful. Your Oscar brother once wanted to kill me and take away my company. The whole internet knows it. You don't know that, do you? So, how did I bully him? It's fake, Chen Shiwen said calmly, as if stating a fact. You are the one who is slandering Oscar. This sentence made Qin Xian at the side couldn't help laughing. Ms. Chun, your logic is a bit unique. Do you know your 3 biological sisters? One went crazy. One became disabled, one had his tendons broken, and the one who started all this was none other than your brother. Look at the evidence on the internet. Are you just pretending to be stupid, or are you really stupid? Chen Shiwen slowly raised her head, looked at Qin Xian firmly, and said unwaveringly, It's fake. Oscar is the best person in the world. Even if he did something, it must be because someone else hurt him first. She turned her head to look at William, her lips slightly raised, revealing a cruel smile. For example, you, William, didn't you often bully him when you were in the Chen family? He wants to kill you because you deserve to die. William narrowed his eyes and looked at her face. The smile on Qin Shiwen's lips was a little crazy and even made him feel a little cold. Qin Xian took a half step back and whispered, William, she seems not normal? William smiled faintly. Be more confident. Remove the seemingly. Qin Shiwen. William's tone suddenly turned cold. Do you think Qin Shiwen will save you if you fall into this situation? Don't stir up trouble. Qin Shiwen sneered. The relationship between me and my brother is not something that people like you can understand. Okay, let's not talk about Qin Shiwen. Let's talk about you. William suddenly changed his tone, with a slight smile on his lips. Aren't you curious about who defeated you in the field you were best at? After hearing these words, Qin Shiwen's expression finally changed. In fact, when she was defeated in the virtual world, she had a guess in her mind. She only knew one person in the whole circle who could do this, Matrix Ghost. But that person was her idol. How could he be related to William? Who is it? Qin Shiwen asked subconsciously. William curled his lips and smiled, then uttered 3 words lightly. Matrix Ghost. Qin Shiwen's pupils suddenly shrank, and her voice trembled a little. You. How do you know this name? What do you think? William smiled but said nothing. William. Qin Shiwen stood up suddenly, her emotions out of control. Answer me. Do you know him? Where is he? Why would he help you? William looked at her out-of-control appearance, and the smile on his lips became more and more obvious. He originally thought that Qin Shiwen was a cold and ruthless lunatic, but he didn't expect that she was so obsessed with his other identity. Let's go, Lawyer Qin. William stood up, looking relaxed. I have nothing to say to her. William, stop right there. Qin Shiwen shouted anxiously. Where the hell is he? William walked out of the interrogation room without looking back. The moment the door closed, the police outside shouted, Be quiet. But Qin Shiwen seemed not to hear and continued to shout hysterically. After leaving the police station, Qin Xian asked, William, how are you going to deal with this matter? Let her stay in prison for a few more years or? William was about to answer when he saw Qin Shingwen rushing over with Chen Wanning and Chen Lang. When Qin Shingwen saw him, his face darkened instantly. William, is there any misunderstanding about this matter? Sixth sister is just an ordinary college student. How could she be a hacker? William sneered and glanced at Qin Shingwen coldly. Qin Shingwen, didn't you tell the eldest sister and the fourth sister about her ability? When Chen Wanning heard this, she immediately looked at Qin Shingwen and Chen Lang. Seeing that the two of them were evasive, she instantly understood something. Okay, Qin Shingwen interrupted coldly. What conditions do you want in order to let sixth sister go? I want both criminal responsibility and compensation. William sneered and walked right past him, without even bothering to give him a glance. Qin Shingwen looked at his back, clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were burning with anger. William, don't be complacent for too long. Chapter 312, if she wants to go to jail, let her go. In the interrogation room, Chen Wanning stared helplessly at Qin Shiwen, who was sitting opposite her, the anger in her heart almost bursting out. Sixth sister, what are you thinking about? Why are you looking for trouble with William for no reason? Qin Shiwen's eyes were dull, as if she didn't hear Chen Wanning's words at all. Chen Shiwen, Chen Wanning raised her voice, her tone already a little impatient. You are in a very serious situation now. Do you know that? Chen Shiwen frowned and finally spoke, but her tone was extremely cold. You are very noisy. This sentence completely ignited Chen Wanning's anger. She slammed the table and gritted her teeth and said, Chen Shiwen, let me tell you, if you weren't my sister, do you think I would care about your shitty business? Chen Shiwen glanced at her coldly and said expressionlessly, I want to see William. See William? Chen Wanning was almost laughing out of anger. Why? Want to beg for mercy? Wake up. William is no longer the poor little guy who was bullied by others. Even if you kneel in front of him now, he won't even look at you. If you don't want to go to jail, you'd better tell the truth now. What happened? You're noisy too, Qin Shiwen said lightly, obviously having no interest in Chen Wanning's anger. As soon as he finished speaking, the door of the interrogation room was pushed open and Qin Shiwen walked in. He looked at Qin Shiwen anxiously. Sixth sister, are you okay? Qin Shiwen's expression finally changed a little. She looked at Qin Shiwen, her eyes softened, and her tone was apologetic. I'm sorry, brother. I'm useless and couldn't help you get revenge. After saying that, she stood up and left with the police without looking back. Chen Wanning looked at her leaving figure, then glanced at Qin Shiwen, who looked innocent, with a hint of disgust in her eyes. She suppressed her anger, took a deep breath, and turned to leave the interrogation room. After arriving at the police office, Chen Wanning tried to understand the case. Comrade police officer, I am Chen Chi-win's elder sister. May I ask what crime she has committed? She tried to make her tone sound calmer. The police listed Chen Chi-win's crimes one by one and produced video evidence. On the screen, Chen Chi-win tapped the keyboard indifferently and attentively, and lines of complex codes jumped across the screen smoothly. Chen Wanning was stunned and completely dumbfounded. Comrade police officer, is this a misunderstanding? My sister, she's just an ordinary college student. An ordinary college student? The police sighed. From the video, she is not an ordinary person. Your sister is obviously a very skilled hacker. Chen Wanning fell silent. Although she didn't understand the technology, she could see that Chen Chi-win's ability was definitely not something that ordinary people could achieve. The most difficult problem at the moment was that William obviously wouldn't let her go easily. Especially with a lawyer like Qin Xian helping her, it was almost impossible to give her a lighter sentence. After leaving the police office, Chen Wanning saw Chen laying sitting alone on a bench. Where is Chen Xingwen? She asked. I don't know. Maybe you want to make a phone call? Chen Lang replied. Follow me. Chen Wanning's tone became a little colder, and she turned and walked out of the police station. In the yard, Chen Wanning stopped, turned around, and looked directly at Chen Lang, and asked in a cold voice. Tell me, what is going on? Chen Lang looked calm and shrugged. What else could it be? Apart from our good brother, who else could persuade that weirdo, Chen Chi-win? Chen Wanning frowned even deeper. Speak clearly. Chen Lang sneered and recounted the whole story in detail, including the whole process of how she and Chen Xingwen worked together to act and guide Chen Chi-win to take action against William. However, she deliberately concealed her relationship with Ling Yuan. In her eyes, Ling Yuan was her backer, not the Chen family. After hearing this, Chen Wanning's face turned extremely ugly, and she was almost unable to suppress her anger. Chen Lang, are you crazy? Chen Chi-win is your biological sister after all. You knew that Chen Xingwen was a piece of shit, but you actually teamed up with him to plot against her. Chen Lang smiled disapprovingly. Sister, don't be so naive. Didn't you accept Chen Xingwen's return to the Chen family? If it were you today, you would do the same. Besides, Chen Chi-win is stupid. Who can she blame? You saw that she took Chen Xingwen's words as an imperial decree. In the interrogation room, when you asked her questions to her face, did she ever give you a good look? Chen Wanning gritted her teeth and suppressed her anger. No matter how stupid Chen Chi-win is, she is still our family. Moreover, she has given so much to Chen Xingwen, but he schemed against her like this. This incident will ruin her sooner or later. It's ruined, so be it, Chen Lang said nonchalantly. I think it's a good thing to let her stay in jail for a while. At least it's better than going crazy or becoming disabled. Chapter 313, Chen Chi-win's past. Brother, is everything settled? William leaned back on the sofa, speaking calmly. He nodded and said, it's been handled. Lawyer Qin will follow up with Chen Chi-win, and I have arranged for the company to issue an announcement to apologize to the players and provide compensation. The cause was said to be a malicious hacker attack. Although no names were mentioned, the internet trolls have spread the news. Now the public opinion on the internet is all scolding Chen Chi-win and the Chen family, and our company has gained a lot of sympathy instead. William smiled slightly and said lightly, Thank you for your hard work, brother. He just stared at him for a moment, as if he suddenly remembered something. Xiao Yi, did you plan this on purpose? How could I be so capable as to force Chen Chi-win to attack our backstage? William smiled and continued, but it was indeed my fault that things turned out like this. If I didn't make it look like a huge loss, how could she pay the price? He just sighed. He finally understood William's intention, but he felt uncomfortable. How badly must a person be hurt to be so calculating towards his blood relatives? By the way, brother, do you know Chen Chi-win well? William asked suddenly. He was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. Not too deep. This girl has been very strange since she was a child. She doesn't like to talk to people. Even my parents, she doesn't have a good face. My dad even joked that she must have been a princess who was held in high esteem in her previous life. And her eyes grew to the top of her head. After a pause, He couldn't help but ask, what's wrong? Why did you suddenly mention her? William frowned and said in a deep voice, I think she is not normal. Not just abnormal, but her attitude towards Chen Xingwen is too abnormal. What do you mean? He didn't react for a moment. Since Chen Xingwen can become a top hacker, her IQ is definitely not low. On the contrary, she should be one of the smartest people in the Chen family. William said slowly, but her trust in Chen Xingwen is simply blind. There must be a reason behind this irrational loyalty. I also heard about some secrets between them in my previous life, but no one in the Chin family was willing to mention it, and it even became a taboo. He frowned and suddenly seemed to remember something. Are you talking about the time when she was almost abducted? Kidnapping? William was stunned. He nodded. Yes. My parents told me that Chen Shiwen was only in the 3rd grade at that time, and the school organized a summer camp, and she was abducted by human traffickers. Later, Chen Shiwen chased her all the way to Yi County and rescued her. When the police found them, they were both unconscious in an abandoned factory. I heard that Chen Shiwen's clothes were torn, and she almost, he just said in a low voice. Chen Shiwen also suffered some minor injuries. Since then, Chen Shiwen has been particularly protective of Chen Shiwen. William's face darkened instantly. So, she protected Chen Shiwen because he saved her? His voice was a little cold. He nodded. That should be the case. William didn't say anything, but a vague picture suddenly emerged in his mind. It was a hot summer many years ago. He was dragging a bag of beverage bottles to a scrap yard to buy tutoring materials. But on the way, he saw several men dragging a struggling girl into a factory. He felt something was wrong, so he quietly followed them. At that time, he was only 12 years old and couldn't even hold the steel bar, but he still rushed forward to stop those people. As a result, he was beaten with blood all over his head and almost fainted. But he insisted on shouting that he had called the police and the owner of the scrapyard. Seeing that he was covered in blood but refused to let go, the gang was afraid of getting into trouble and finally fled in embarrassment. When he woke up, the girl was gone. He thought she had left on her own and did not ask any more questions. This memory was also diluted by time, and it did not resurface until he heard He-Jie's description today. If I remember correctly, Chen Shiwen was 15 years old when the accident happened, right? William asked. Yes, she was in the 3rd grade that year, and Chen Shiwen was in the 1st grade. He-Jie replied. William was silent for a moment and suddenly showed a self-deprecating smile. Brother, I went to junior high school in Yi County. He-Jie was stunned, as if he realized something. William raised his head, his eyes cold. Do you think someone like Chen Shiwen would really risk his life to save Chen Shiwen? He-Jie's pupils suddenly contracted. You mean the person who actually saved Chen Shiwen back then was you? William chuckled, his voice low and hoarse. If I say yes, would you believe it? As long as you say it, I will believe it. He-Jie answered without hesitation. William shook his head and smiled in an extremely desolate manner. So, the person I tried my best to save back then turned out to be my good 6th sister. In the previous life, she teamed up with Chen Shiwen and destroyed everything I had. It's really ridiculous. God really knows how to play jokes on me. But this matter, William's eyes suddenly changed with a strong chill. I'm afraid it's not that simple. What has anyone done to Chen Shiwen? In the tense atmosphere, William's eyes were as cold as a knife, staring at Ling Yuan. Ling Yuan's heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and he felt an inexplicable pressure that forced him to be unable to escape. The atmosphere in the car became dull, and Ling Yuan tried his best to stay calm. But he had already sensed the danger that could not be ignored from William's eyes. Dr. Ling, why is your heartbeat suddenly so fast? William's voice was teasing, but without any warmth. Ling Yuan suppressed his inner fear and tried his best to keep his tone steady. William, I just have some questions and I don't know how to answer them. His voice trembled slightly, and the suppressed fear made him almost unable to control himself. William seemed satisfied with his reaction, and a sneer rose at the corner of his mouth. It's okay, I'll tell you the answer. The psychological phenomenon of identifying the wrong savior that you just mentioned does exist, but it is not just because of extreme fear. On a deeper level, it is a kind of psychological distortion. Especially when forced by difficulties, victims tend to deify the person who saved them, even regardless of the facts. Ling Yuan's eyes flashed with enlightenment, and then doubts arose in his heart. So you mean that Chen Shiwen didn't recognize the wrong person at that time, but William's voice suddenly dropped. Yes, she didn't mistake Chen Shiwen, but Chen Shiwen planned all this himself. He is not only her lifesaver, but also her culprit. This sentence was like a bolt from the blue, and Ling Yuan felt that the whole world collapsed in an instant. He stared at William, his heart filled with unbelievable shock. William slowly leaned back in his chair. A sneer appeared on his lips. Do you think this is just a simple misunderstanding? No, there is a bigger game behind this, and Chen Xingwen has long been the mastermind of this game. The street scene outside the car window was rapidly receding, But Ling Yuan's thoughts seemed to be stagnant, unable to extricate himself. He thought of Qin Shiwen's irrational behavior and the various changes she had undergone since Chun Xingwen appeared. Everything seemed to point to a more complex and unfathomable truth. Then what are you going to do? Ling Yuan finally couldn't help asking. He knew that this problem was not only about Chun Shiwen, but also about himself. William's smile became more meaningful. Of course, let the truth come to light. But Dr. Ling, you have to be careful. Many times, knowing too much is not a good thing. The atmosphere in the car became more and more solemn, and Ling Yuan couldn't help but shudder. He knew that he had been involved in this seemingly unsolvable puzzle, and all he could do was be cautious and wait. At the same time, David was furious in his office. He simply couldn't understand Qin Shiwen's almost crazy behavior. The entire Qin family seemed to be shrouded in this intricate conspiracy. Qin Shiwen was no longer the calm and rational girl, but a deeply confused person. And his own daughter, Qin Wanning, began to realize that Qin Shiwen's hidden hacker talent might be a trump card for their family's future, if she could survive this storm. At this moment, an invitation card appeared in David's hand. It was sent by the He family and seemed to be some kind of support for Qin Xingwen. The He family actually sided with that beast? David sneered, as if he no longer had any hope for this matter. Let her calm down for a while. The mystery behind this is still confusing. Every move William makes seems to be constantly pushing the truth forward, but it also makes everyone fall into deeper confusion and difficulties. This complex game is far from over, and the real story may have just begun. Shocking reversal. Who is the savior? What do you mean? He Jie's eyes were full of confusion. Is there something strange about this? William slowly stood up, his eyes sharp, and his mind quickly sorted out the doubts. All this is not as simple as it seems on the surface. Qin Shiwen is 15 years old and has a very high IQ. How could she be trafficked? What's more coincidental is that Qin Shiwen just happened to appear in E County. William narrowed his eyes slightly. Before I fainted, I had never seen Qin Shiwen. Where did he get those injuries? He Jie was stunned. You mean, the whole thing was directed and acted by yourself? Very likely. William tapped the table with his fingertips, his voice low. Qin Shiwen has done similar things in the past. Creating a hero saving the beauty and gaining trust is simply his forte. How old is this kid? He has such a sinister mind, he just said angrily, and then his face changed. And have you noticed that after the trafficking incident, Qin Shiwen has completely changed? She clearly hated Qin Shiwen in the past, but now she regards him as her only reliance. William snorted coldly. Yes, Qin Shiwen successfully brainwashed her. As for whether Qin Shiwen only remembered the fear at that time, or whether someone had tampered with her, it is hard to say. At the same time, in the office of the chairman of the Chun group, David slammed the table and said angrily, "Is this girl crazy? Chun Xingwen's bad deeds have spread everywhere, and she is still protecting him." Chun Wanning sighed. After the incident 5 years ago, Sixth Sister only has eyes for Qin Xingwen. What a pity. Her hacking skills are amazing. If she can wake up, she will be of great help to the family. Awake? She's lucky enough to be able to protect herself from being destroyed by that beast. David gritted his teeth in anger. At this time, another undercurrent is quietly surging. As soon as Ling Yuan got into the car, his back suddenly stiffened. William in the back seat slowly raised his eyes, his voice calm but dangerous. "Dr. Ling, I just want to consult about some psychological issues." Ling Yuan forced himself to remain calm. "Please go ahead." William's eyes were burning. "Tell me, a girl who was trafficked and almost raped would mistake her savior for her?" Ling Yuan's pupils shrank slightly, and his fingers froze on the steering wheel. This, from a psychological point of view, when people are extremely scared, they may have cognitive biases. Really? William raised his lips slightly, his voice cold. So, my Sixth Sister's admission was just because she was too scared? Ling Yuan looked through the rearview mirror at the meaningful coldness in William's eyes, and his forehead was instantly covered with cold sweat. "Dr. Ling, why is your heartbeat suddenly so fast?"